Hi, welcome to Mind Pen and Paper, where we discuss in this particular edition analog thinking for digital world. So all of us know that human beings are biological in nature, right? Because this is something which all of us are aware of the fact that we are essentially systems which are embedded in an ecological environment. So we live and communicate in a digital world, and this is something which we have kind of got used to. But there is also some very interesting aspect of human life because we are essentially analog in nature, but we overwhelmingly live in a digital world. So, therefore, there is some kind of a friction which is kind of bringing in its own complications. And these are very interesting times where adaptation is necessary to know how we can live in such a world. So, therefore, the relevant question is what are the specific tools to think in such a kind of a world, and how should we go about thinking in such a world? And this is something what I'm going to discuss in this edition. So, there are two answers and interrelated ones. One is that questioning is important for thinking, and writing is equally important for thinking. So let me elaborate a little bit more on these particular aspects. When it comes to questioning, the two non trivial questions for any particular concept or any particular venture is to address the how and why, because these are kind of deeper questions which will take us in a particular pathway and give us a reason of how to go about thinking. There's also specific questions which are reasonably straightforward, like who, what, when. And these are the questions which drive our thinking. And no matter which particular age you live in, even if you are completely embedded in digital world, these are important and relevant questions which we will always have to address in considerable detail. Now, let's look at the aspect of writing itself, which is an important aspect. First and the most important reason for writing is that it helps us to externalize thoughts, which means that it helps us to take something which is there outside in the world, and try to look at it and grasp it in our minds, process it, and then put it across again out to the outside world. So this particular process of taking in and then putting out is mainly guided by writing. It also helps you to look at your own thinking and self criticize yourself in a way which is not very easy for us if we just keep our thoughts inside our minds. And the third aspect also is that we generally don't give much emphasis, generally, when we are talking about thinking, is the mathematical thinking. This is slightly more higher order thinking where we try to symbolize our thinking process. For example, I've just given an equation here, which is the famous Langevin equation, which is essentially representing some specific kind of uh, dynamics of an object. For example, the solution to this is related to the Brownian motion, and it's a very fascinating phenomena by itself. So, what I meant to emphasize is that in order to understand complicated process, we need to symbolize the thinking, and mathematical way of looking at it is an effective way, a process of doing this, and this is something I would want to emphasize going forward. So, in this particular series, what we're going to actually do is I'm going to discuss some particular questions which mainly drive my own thinking and my own research, so to speak. And the most important aspect, and I've purposefully kept this particular discussion to be low tech with high thoughts, so to speak, which means that I don't want to utilize very fancy equipment or very fancy kind of processes, but to just discuss about interesting questions using the medium of digital platform. For example, you probably would be looking at this particular video through YouTube. So therefore, YouTube is an excellent tool for us to utilize it for disseminating thoughts. But these thoughts need not be always sophisticated kind of digital content. It can be very analog content like what I am now presenting. And in that particular process, I would also want to communicate the research process per se. That is equally an important point, where I am going to take some specific examples again from my own research in science, especially in optics, soft matter physics, and also quite a bit of history of science, where I'm going to show you how very specific pen and paper and thought process are important for us to formulate our questions and our research process per se. Ultimately, the main aim is to learn and share. This is the most important kind of motivation behind all these things, what I'm going to do. And I hope you will see the effectiveness of the analog processes in this particular digital world. In fact, this is something I extensively do in my own research, where I always try to utilize these kind of tools. Even when I'm discussing with my research group, I generally tend to write down on pen and paper, which is essentially the motivation in this particular talk, where I am looking at things purely from a concept viewpoint and discussing those concepts without having to worry about tools. And this particular series of mind, pen, and paper essentially will try to show analog thinking for the digital world, particularly through the examples of my own research. So, in this particular process, you'll also get to hear a lot about my own research process, and hopefully, 2024 would be a good platform for me to discuss all these things in reasonable detail. And do you know what? The most important thing is that I don't have to use very sophisticated instruments. For example, I'm just recording this on my mobile phone without even an external microphone. But the technology is so good that you can utilize these things with reasonable high efficiency. And the whole motivation is to show analog thinking for the digital world, where processes like questioning and writing are equally important, uh, if not even more important in this particular age than it was in the past. So I'm wishing you all a very happy new year. So I too am looking forward to posting these particular videos for us to discuss. So I request you to also subscribe to the YouTube channel so that we can humanize science, which is the main kind of motivation behind all these things. And second part is also to learn and share whatever we learn across various different arenas. So, wishing you a very happy new year, and I hope I'll be able to communicate with you a lot more in the coming year, and I look forward to it. Bye bye.